Hello, hello all. Welcome back to our finals here at the League Challenge happening at the Collector Store in St. Piers, Missouri. My name is Leonard Kraft, and it's a privilege to be joined by Jared Carpenter this morning, or I guess it's this afternoon now, isn't it, to commentate this final match of the tournament.
Yes, indeed, and we have a wonderful finals for you today. Trick Room versus Trick Room, Lunala versus Calyrex-Ice Rider, Chris versus Alex. We're very much going to have an excellent finals here today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is always a tricky one when you have like two hard Trick Room teams fighting against each other, because you always have a interesting dynamic of like, is my opponent going to get Trick Room up? Do I need to get Trick Room up? So as far as the slowest Pokemon that are in this battle, we do see that Chris has that Torkoal, which will be slower than all of Alex's team. So Torkoal will underspeed everything that Alex has, assuming it's trained to be as slow as possible. But at the same time, the rest of Alex's Pokemon are generally speaking slower than Chris's. So you have the Calyrex-Ice Rider, you have the Hatterene, that will likely be slower than the Ursaluna and the Lunala. So it's not super clear to me like who wants Trick Room and where exactly you want it at. I think Chris, if I'm Chris, I'm pretty happy with just like leading with Lunala and just firing off like a Helping Hand Meteor Beam into something and just hoping it goes well. And having maybe Torkoal in the back and then maybe your Urshifu. Both sides having the Dark type Urshifu with that Single-Strike variant, both holding the Choice Band as well. Let's see, do both have the same moves? No, we do have U-Turn on Chris's as opposed to the Poison Jab on Alex, and more importantly, the Poison Terra on Urshifu on Alex's side as opposed to the just Dark Terra on Chris's side. So this will be an interesting one. We've got two hard Trick Room teams. Who's gonna make it out of here alive?
Yeah, I think that Poison Jab with Terra Poison on Alex's Urshifu-Single-Strike is going to be something to keep an eye on this game. Lunala wants that Ghost Psychic typing wants no part of a Wicked Blow or a Sucker Punch, and could Terra Fairy out of that, but suddenly there could be a Poison Jab heading your way to take advantage of that Terra. It puts an interesting mind game and doesn't let Lunala just freely go for a Fairy Terra in the face of this Urshifu if it had something like the U-turn instead of that Poison Jab.
Yeah, I think that's just one extra thing that Chris is going to have to account for. And so you can see, like, Chris here scrolling through his options, like, which ones do I pick? The Annihilape is also potentially scary. Annihilape should be able to remove basically anything except for the Lunala and maybe the Ursaluna. Let's actually see. Yeah, the Ursaluna will have enough HP to survive one final Gambit from that opposing Annihilape, but not well. It would faint to any amount of damage afterwards, including its own Flame Orb. So the Annihilape could be really devastating. You potentially lead, for example, Annihilape and Urshifu, and then if you want, you can just say, hey, Lunala, you need to pick like what your option is this turn. You need to decide like what you actually want to bring here. Indeedee is also like, you really wouldn't like to bring Indeedee outside of Follow Me, because Indeedee is like very low impact into almost all of the Pokemon on Alex's side, save the Fairy type Alluring Voice being used into the Single-Strike Urshifu. So both players have locked in. It's Hard Trick Room versus Hard Trick Room. Like you said, it's Chris versus Alex who's going to come out on top in this final best of 3.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Can't wait to see how this is going. Some similar Pokemon on both of these teams wanting to take advantage of Trick Room. And we see Calyrex, and there's the Annihilape you're talking about, into Indeedee and Lunala. This suddenly gets very interesting, very fast. Like you said, Final Gambit could come out. Annihilape is the fastest Pokemon, I think, on either team with that Choice Scarf, and can just freely click that Final Gambit into the Indeedee. Indeedee has no way to protect itself.
Yeah.
But that would leave Lunala available to get some big damage down on this Calyrex if it doesn't protect.
A Shadow Claw would also be okay. The Shadow Claw Glacial Lance combination attack would likely pick up a KO on the Indeedee, and you could also throw that Shadow Claw Lunala's way to keep it honest. The Lunala would love to just go for like a Helping Hand Meteor Beam into the Calyrex-Ice, but Calyrex could go for a Terra Water to get around that. It's not like there's no clear best play from either player, and so you have to pick a play that covers what you think your opponent is likely to go for. And it looks like Chris has decided that play is going to be a Follow Me from the Indeedee. But we start off the turn with a Terrestrialization from Alex's side.
Yeah, we see that Terra Water coming out, predicting the Meteor Beam to be headed his way, trying to get a knockout quickly, wanting no part of it, able to remove that weakness to Rock. Here comes the Follow Me from the Indeedee. We'll see what the Annihilape went for. Did it just go for the final Gambit trade? And no, it goes for Coaching, and that move cannot be blocked or redirected by the Follow Me, so +1 attack and defense into this Calyrex as it goes to take this Meteor Beam from the Lunala.
Yeah, the Meteor Beam will increase the special attack of Lunala. Let's see if it hits. It does. It will blast the Calyrex for some damage, but not a KO. However, I think if you're Chris, you're okay with seeing this. Even the Glacial Lance, as long as Indeedee doesn't fall, I think you're okay with it. Yep. Next turn now you can go for a Helping Hand and Moongeist Beam into the Calyrex. That will pick up a KO for sure. The Annihilate is Choice Scarf into Coaching. It cannot choose any other move. So if the Annihilate wants to go for another Coaching, it will gain absolutely no ground versus these two special attackers. At the same time, the Annihilate could switch out, and there are several Pokemon that Alex could bring in that would be threatening. One example could be the Ogerpon-Cornerstone or potentially the Indeedee. But we actually just see, the option of going for a Helping Hand Expanding Force. Like, I forgot about that. That's just going to deal heavy, heavy damage with the Calyrex having dropped its Psychic Resistance. This Expanding Force is going to do a whole heap and lot of damage.
Yeah, the Calyrex does go for Protect, doesn't want any part of taking that damage, and Coaching does go through Protect, so it is buffing up this Calyrex for future turns, but this Annihilape is absolutely going to fall to this Expanding Force. Helping Hand boosted, Psychic Terrain boosted, it's done and dusted, but that will allow Alex to reposition and get something else in that isn't choice locked and probably faster than both of the Pokemon Chris have out on the field.
Yeah, you'd imagine this has to be either a Rock Ogerpon or the Urshifu-Single-Strike. It looks like it is that Rock Ogerpon. However, the downside of this is that I don't think Rock Ogerpon is actually threatening a KO onto the Lunala. It might even survive a critical hit Ivy Cudgel, though that might be reaching. If it does survive, though, then it's just an Expanding Force right back. If Chris wants to, you can go for a Follow Me, too. Expanding Force probably will pick up the Calyrex from here, I'd imagine, with the +1 that you got earlier from that Meteor Beam. I'd imagine you'll survive that attack, and then you can just go for Follow Me Expanding Force. That should bring the Ogerpon down to its sturdy and knock out the Calyrex. And if you're not sure about that, you can throw the Helping Hand this way. But either way, the Ogerpon may be able to get off one attack, but that's all it's going to get off, and even if the Calyrex survives this, it's not going to take it very well.
No, the Calyrex, if it survives, would be on such low HP. The Ivy Cudgel coming out, redirected by the Follow Me, is going to take out this Indeedee finally, but we have this Expanding Force coming, and it is going to do massive damage. So we see Ogerpon brought down to sturdy, Calyrex, those defense boosts doing absolutely nothing in the end, as we now have a 3 versus 2 matchup in Chris's favor.
Yeah, Chris doesn't have any additional supports to go into besides potentially Gallade with Wide Guard, but Wide Guard going to do nothing against this Cornerstone Ogerpon. The big question is this a last Mon Urshifu? I think it kind of has to be. If it's anything else, I think you're in big trouble. Who? That's probably a bear, right? Yep, there's the Urshifu. The Urshifu here in prime position to deal heavy damage with Wicked Blow. The Wicked Blow will definitely pick up a KO on Lunala if it fails to Terrestrialize. But you might have to deal with that 50-50 of you Poison Jab into a Terra Fairy. However, I think if you're Chris, then you might be okay with it locking into Poison Jab. You might say, hey, no matter what you do, I think that I've got this in the bag. I would imagine something like, for example, a Moongeist Beam into Rock Pond and a Trick Room with your, or just Sacred Sword. I guess that would work too. Because there's already been Terrestrialization committed, that's right. So yeah, Ivy Cudgel comes out into the Lunala, and it's not enough.
Yeah, good knowledge there. The Ivy Cudgel coming out, not doing enough damage. I think that is going to seal the game. A crit might have given Alex a chance, but Rock Ogerpon goes down. It's Urshifu against the world with a Choice Band. Wicked Blow appears to be going out into... Ooh! Now that's a KO into the Gallade before it can do anything. But we saw that... So here comes Torkoal, and the speed tier seem to be Lunala, Urshifu, Torkoal, if I'm reading this right.
Yeah, that's a pretty, lots of important things happening that turn. The Ogerpon failing to get the knockout onto the Lunala. Potentially, a Woodhammer might have got it. That would have been just a little bit more powerful. But not wanting to take the recoil damage being at 1 HP, knowing that it would knock it out. But I think that's a pretty big downside. Now you have to deal with 2 attacks. The Urshifu can only go for single target moves. It's slower than the Lunala, so unless this is a speed tie and you win a speed tie, you're not going to be able to KO both of these Pokemon fast enough. Moonguy's Beam likely won't pick up Urshifu in a single hit, but so what? The Wicked Blow is probably not likely to even knock out the Torkoal. And Torkoal can just respond with whatever fire-type attack it clicks. Even Eruption would probably do enough. But Weather Ball here in the sun will easily do enough to fell the remaining amount of HP on Urshifu, and that'll be game 1 for Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Well played by Chris. And interestingly enough, Trick Room not clicked for either of these players, despite both being Trick Room teams. So really interesting knowledge gained by both players. The Ivy Cudgel damage into the Lunala, the Urshifu speed tiers against Lunala. Really interesting and something Alex is going to have to keep in mind if he wants to bring this back. But Chris is currently up 1-0 in this finals series.
Yeah, I think the coaching with Annihilape was just almost never going to work out with the plays that you ended up making in the end. Like, in order for that... like the second coaching plus protect to have been effective, you would have to survive that expanding force. Like, you have to make that trade knowing that you survived the +1 expanding force. And since you didn't, and that the Calyrex was just kind of like stuck on the board. It did have to Terastallize turn 1 though. Like, otherwise Meteor Beam would have just done way too much. It still would have been in KO range of expanding force either way. So I'd imagine that if you're Alex, you need to approach this differently. We saw the Follow Me from the Indeedee turn 1 as well, so it's not as if you can go for like Shadow Claw. I don't think that's going to be enough for you. If Shadow Claw and Glacial Lance does pick up a KO onto the Lunala, or excuse me, onto the Indeedee, then maybe next turn you can...
Shadow Claw won't do anything to the Indeedee, correct?
Oh, you're right.
Because it's part normal type.
You're totally right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Oh, shoot. Okay, then, yeah, maybe Annihilape just isn't the lead at all.
Yeah, unless you're willing to trade Annihilape for Indeedee immediately to get rid of that support option. But that's risky. You'd like to get a bit more valuable of a target out with your Annihilape than that.
And if that's the case as well, like, I don't think there's any way that you can lead Annihilape plus X, and then you can, like, break the Shadow Shield and then threaten the Lunala with a KO the next turn. Outside of maybe, like, a Terra Rock Ogerpon, everything else is slower than a Lunala. So this Lunala here, it has just enough speed to be really potent in this Trick Room mirror match, and I think the Lunala definitely was the star of the show in that game 1. If Alex wants to bring this back, he's going to have to find a way to break through the Lunala a lot quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go. Game number 2. Alex's life is on the line in this tournament, and we see a mix-up from him. Instead of Calyrex, we see Urshifu paired up with this Annihilape. Meanwhile, Chris is bringing the same pair of Lunala and Indeedee, getting up that Psychic Terrain, and we will see what he goes for now.
Yeah, I think this is better for Alex. Now you can go for the Wicked Blow. That will definitely one-shot the Indeedee with no trouble. You also could go for Final Gambit with your Annihilape. That would pick up a knockout onto the Indeedee, and then you could Wicked Blow into the Lunala. However, I think if you expect that, then you're just going to get a Terra Fairy Trick Room out of Chris. So that's not especially great because you saw Torkoal in the back, and we know Torkoal is slower than everything. Torkoal would just be able to, like, click Terrafire. Well, I guess it wouldn't click Terrafire Eruption if the Lunala had to commit Terastallization, but either way, that's not what happens. We just see a Follow Me from Indeedee. Is Annihilape going to go for that Follow Me? Or, excuse me, not Follow Me, Final Gambit.
You're correct. There's the Final Gambit, absolutely clearing the field of this Indeedee and allowing Urshifu to go for a move into this Lunala. We'll see if he went for the Wicked Blow or tried to read a Terastallization and went for the Poison Jab. And he goes straight for the Wicked Blow, so the Shadow Shield is up, but this is 4 times super effective and just straight gets a one-hit KO.
Yeah, Lunala didn't stand a chance against that one. When you get punched in the face by a Dark-type Urshifu, if you're 4 times weak, don't matter if you have that damage. That's definitely picking up a KO, and that is devastating for Chris. Losing both your Pokemon on turn 1 like that is just, like, game-ending. We saw that in game 1, Wicked Blow was enough to pick up a KO onto the Gallade in a single hit as well. Isn't this just Ivy Cudgel into the Torkoal and Wicked Blow into the Gallade? I don't see what stops that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Torkoal has Protect, but Gallade only has Wide Guard as a defensive option. So there's nothing that can be done by Chris to prevent the Gallade going down here if Alex chooses to Wicked Blow into it. And I can't see why he wouldn't. I think the best that Torkoal can do is Heat Wave and pray for like crit burns.
Yeah,
but even that's not guaranteed to get him back into the game.
Yeah,
that's how far behind he is.
Yeah, I think you're going to need a whole lot of things like that. And actually, the Ogerpon opts for the Terra Rock. That will mean the Ivy Cudgel does even more damage to the Torkoal. It'll also mean that it resists this incoming fire type attack. So even in the worst case scenario of that Heat Wave burn, this is still like so devastating for Chris. Terastallization from Torkoal, hoping to get some damage off, but I don't know. We might just see 2 1-hit KOs this turn too.
Yeah, absolutely. The Terastallization now coming out from Chris and trying to get as much damage as possible. Ogerpon is strong, but Torkoal has an incredible defense stat, so I don't think this will take it out. No, I'm wrong. With the Terra boost, that just instantly one-hit knocks out Torkoal. The game's over. We saw in game 1 that Urshifu will take out this Gallade after outspeeding it.
Yeah, and even if it didn't at this point, like even if that was a damage roll and Gallade managed to survive, which it doesn't, Gallade is not going to be able to mount a 3v1 comeback. So 2 turns, 4 1-hit KOs. That's about as fast as you can get for a game. That was good adjustment by Alex. You win in 2 turns by one-shotting all of your opponent's Pokemon. It's got to feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. Way to turn it around from Alex in that game 1. And I want to reiterate the point I brought up earlier about the Urshifu having Poison Jab as its last coverage option instead of something more commonly seen like the U-turn. It suddenly became a real interesting mind game for Lunala on, do I Terastallize or not? Do I think he's going to predict me to Terastallize into Fairy type, go for the Poison Jab, or do I try to resist the Poison Jab by not Terastallizing?
Yeah, I think if you're Chris, you let that one get away from you, though. Even if you get red with that Poison Jab as the Terra Fairy comes out from Lunala, you're going to survive that attack. Like, at least you'll survive and get Torkoal in. Then you can go for Eruption and a Moongeist Beam. Imagine the Rock Ogerpon comes in there. It's going to be threatened by a combination attack of Eruption plus Moongeist Beam. The tricky thing is that if you commit your Terastallization early like that on the Lunala, and you take a lot of damage, it means that you'll be in KO range for Glacial Lance later on. So I think that's the real big kicker, is that like if Lunala takes a lot of damage early, then it means that in Trick Room, the Calyrex-Ice will be able to just go for its Terra Water, resist the Fire-type attacks from Torkoal, and deal heavy damage back into the Lunala. So Chris cannot let that kind of turn 1 happen again, though. You can't just let both of your Pokemon go down in a single turn. You've got to make an adjustment. Let's see if Alex can punish that, too, because surely no way that you leave your Lunala alone again, right? So maybe you do go for that Poison Jab this time. But actually, no Poison Jab option available. Instead, it's the Game 1 leads of Lunala and Indeedee versus the Annihilape and the Calyrex-Ice.
Yeah, Chris has got to feel a lot better about this lead this time. The Annihilape, we saw that coaching just wasn't a valid strategy against this Lunala Indeedee combo, and so it's probably going to be another final gambit coming out from this Annihilape to try to remove the Indeedee, so we'll see what happens here.
Yeah, the upside of this play, like I think Alex should recognize that coaching isn't the way to go. So you do at least remove the Indeedee straight away, but the downside is that you still have to take this Meteor Beam into Expanding Force combination attack, and like if you do like Final Gambit Protect and then like block the Meteor Beam that way, that just feels awkward. So yeah, there is this Terastallization from the Calyrex, and now it will have a little I don't know, what's that water type thing on its head? It will mean that it will take less damage from this Meteor Beam.
Yeah, absolutely. No longer weak to the rock type attack because it has shed its ice typing. Here's the final gambit we were discussing. Annihilape just being used to trade into this Indeedee. And we will see, will this Meteor Beam hit. We saw game 1 that it'll do about 40% if it hits, but of course it has that 5% chance to miss, which would be really impactful if that were to come through to fruition.
No misses, though. The Meteor Beam into the Calyrex will do that 40%. Calyrex retaliates with a Glacial Lance in return. Will do a little bit less damage than in game 1 thanks to not having that +1 from the coaching, but still something favorable for Chris, I'd say. And now, I think the tricky thing is, like, if Urshifu comes in on Alex's side, now it's more of a true 50-50, because now you really, like, can't, like if they go for Poison Jab versus Wicked Blow, like, before you could, like, use Terra Fairy and kind of hedge your bets and say, oh, okay, I'm going to survive anyway thanks to my Shadow Shield. Now you realistically can't do that. You do know that you're faster with your Lunala. Your Lunala does outspeed this Urshifu, but it likely doesn't knock it out in a single hit. I can't imagine that Moongeist Beam will do it. Expanding Force definitely won't unless the Urshifu decides to Terastallize to Terra Poison. So the Urshifu on Chris's side, I think, is going to be the big game changer. Like, does your Urshifu outspeed their Urshifu? And do you know that as well? Like, you might know that based on your own Lunala's speed versus your own Urshifu speed. You might know how the speed interaction goes, and Alex might not. So we'll have to see what happens here. This is a real tricky turn. It might decide the whole game.
Yeah, I think, like you said, this is the most pivotal turn in the entire series, honestly. We do see that Terastallization come out. The Terra Fairy on this Lunala. We'll see if Poison Jab is clicked into it. It did opt to go for Trick Room, if I saw that correctly, so we'll see if it's able to survive long enough to get that off. And instead, no, just clicking Close Combat into the enemy Urshifu, choosing to take that out.
Okay, well, Close Combat into Urshifu, that going down is important. It means that Urshifu can't retaliate with any big damage. The Glacial Lantern response into Lunala is just it's probably not gonna knock it out in a single hit, right? But that might do enough. Yeah, I think it's enough for it to be in KO range next turn from another Glacial Lance. Although Trick Room is set up, Torkoal will not be able to one-shot this Calyrex. It's at about 60% HP remaining. Although you can knock out the Urshifu without much trouble, you really need this to, you need this Eruption to be able to knock out the Calyrex-Ice, so that way it doesn't retaliate with a Glacial Lance in return. I don't know if Torkoal's going to be able to do it. It's not over yet, though. Eruption will still do heavy damage to both Pokemon, and you can't really switch if you're Alex, so you will just lose your Urshifu. But if it's Rock Ogerpon in the back, then it'll just always survive one hit and be able to retaliate with Ivy Cudgel. So, yeah, I think I'd say Alex is favored here. I don't really know if there's a lot Chris can do if it is that Rock Ogerpon as the last Pokemon, as we've seen Alex bring in all 3 games so far, or in both previous games.
Yeah, we'll see. Here comes the Eruption with a Charcoal, with a Sun Boost. Urshifu absolutely going to fall here. And let's see. The Calyrex has been getting single target Glacial Lances into Lunala all game, but now that it's spread, it's still enough damage to take out that Lunala, leaving this as Torkoal against the world here.
Yeah, you almost wonder if maybe Heat Wave was your only way out. Maybe go for a, just hope that you get the burn on Calyrex. But even then, I think Glacial Lance would have still done enough. And yeah, it is that Rock Ogerpon. And so there's just no way out at this point. I don't think Torkoal would even be able to KO. You have to Heat Wave, double burn, and survive both attacks, which that's just not happening. The Calyrex does off-protect itself, so is the Rock Ogerpon going to do the same? Nope, just going to take this Heat Wave. Let's see if it burns. That'll make it, I guess, a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, burn here is really the only way through. Does not get the burn. Ivy Cudgel comes out. Yeah, takes it out. I was a little bit considering that maybe it wouldn't, because it had the Terra Boost last game to do so, but such a strong rock attack from such a strong Pokemon takes out the Torkoal, and that allows Alex to walk away with the win here.
Yeah, congratulations, Alex. My Quincy brethren, Chris, has been defeated, so I'm a bit disappointed for Chris in that respect, but Alex played that pretty well. He definitely identified the angles that he needed to go for in that game 2 and 3. Definitely a clear adjustment from game 1 that put him in a driver's seat. And just the rapid fire nature of Hard Trick Room versus Hard Trick Room was real fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't say congratulations and well done to Alex enough. Going 2-2 in the round of 4, barely making it into the top 4, then defeated the undefeated Kyogre team to make it to finals, and then beating a Trick Room matchup in finals himself. Well played. Congratulations for winning this collector's store Pokemon Cup here. Uh, and I think that'll do it for us here today.
Yep, that'll be
Thank
all.
you all so much for listening.
Yep, hope you have a good rest of your day. Until next time, have a good one.